Welcome back, everybody, to this very special episode of Boundary Breakers. And boy, do we have big plans for you today. So, we have Lynn Johnston, a legendary creator for better or for worse. And at 77, Lynn has not just reflected on her legacy, but has actively been engaged in shaping it. From creating a new series of children's books to offering sharp insights on creativity and aging, join us as Lynn shares her journey of breaking boundaries as an individual who has been in the industry for a long time, redefining what it means to grow older and proving that age is no barrier on passion, humor, purpose, and living. Hey, Lynn, how are you doing? How's your day going? Tell us a little bit about what you've been going through lately.
I'm going to be leaving for a small book tour tomorrow. So today is packing day and catching up at the studio and cleaning stuff up and emptying paint trays and doing whatever I do before I leave. But it's a busy life.
Yeah, it seems like you've been nonstop. I've had a little bit of a look into what your life has been like lately. So tell us about some of these projects and events that you've been part of.
Um, After, for better or for worse, I tried to retire. I didn't play canasta or golf or do any of those things. I don't do Pilates or I hate the gym. Oh my goodness. Exercise is chewing, right? So after I retired, so called, I was so bored. It took me about a year to get super bored. Like you do all the things you plan to do, clean house and contact friends and do some traveling. And then I decided, well, I really have to get to work. So I started working on fabric patterns because I couldn't find any fabric that was funny and fun and whimsical and colorful. And so I started doing fabric design, and I did literally hundreds of them. And I worked with a friend who is a quilt designer, and we have books full of fabric design, but it's very hard to market them. It's a really interesting process. And we went to New York and we got involved with the different I don't know organizations, and still have not marketed the book the fabric patterns. But of all the fabric patterns, one of them really was fun to look at, and it was a robot pattern. So
Okay.
I like to work with this robot pattern. And at the time, we brought in a couple of marketing students to work with us, and they said, "Why don't you do children's books?" And so I challenged myself to do 6 books in a year, 6 children's books in a year. And I have the six right here actually. So I actually did it. I did 6 children's books in a year. And it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun, and it's a real challenge. And it's nice to have young people around. These 2 marketing students were young and interesting and fun to be with. And I did it to prove it to them as much as to myself that I could do it. And I have a wonderful colorist in Ontario who took on the project and designed all the pages and the covers and everything. So these 6 little books have come out. So we're marketing those now. I'm working on quite a big painting. I can show you. I can turn my computer around and can you see that? There's a fairly large painting.
Ah, that's a landscape for sure. Almost looks like a volcano or a mountain or something in the back.
It's a fall Yukon landscape. And
Mm.
it's for my sister and my husband for their wall. And they just got a new house, so it's a housewarming present. But I'm really enjoying it because I don't do realistic things very often. I'm always doing like here. I can turn it the other way. Here's my yes.
Yeah, this is your illustration setup, hey?
I don't know how well you can see this. This is a pencil rough for page 20 of the 7th book. And so what I'm doing right now is because my hands shake so much, you can see my head shakes too if I'm not thinking about it. And I'm glad it's not like this because I'd be agreeing to far too many things.
Everything, yeah.
My head shakes. I get free exercise, right? Why go to the gym? So I've hired a wonderful young guy who's in his 50s. That's young to me, right?
Yeah.
And he looks on a tablet like all young artists do now. And so he's taking my pencil roughs And we scan them, send them to him, and he can put them on a tablet and turn them into really nice, clean drawings. If I'm doing the drawing in ink myself, my hand shakes so much that
And
I
it bleeds, right? Mm-hmm.
once you enlarge something with whiteout on it, it looks like the dog chewed it, you know? So it's great to have another artist. And besides, it gives me the incentive to keep ahead of him, you know, because he has to get the work. So I have to do the
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this is such a overarching sort of, characteristic of life, as you've grown and aged more, your body has had effects like this shaking. And I think this would be a great time to bring up your comic art book that you have done, for better or for worse. Is there some symbolism behind the name of that book and what it means for your life? I've got it right here. Let me pull it up so the audience can see. I'm going to have to turn off my background, though.
really um, balance show. You need a booklet to go with the show.
Mhm.
The show is about. Well, in the show, there was so much material. There were, you know, the fabric designs and images from my childhood drawings and pictures of my family members who were also artists. And that's really so much in the show that rather than just a pamphlet, we ended up, and my daughter ended up doing a whole book, which is what you're seeing right now. And it's really quite a nice book for me to keep as a souvenir of my own career because it covers the sketches I did as a kid and the work I did as a medical artist years ago, and just it's just quite a nice chronicle of the old broad's life and times, as it were.
Yeah, I when I did my looking through there, like the art, and obviously it has such a, humorous and comedic and happy sort of setting, but some of the stories in there are very deep.
My husband and his friends got lost in an aircraft accident way up in the Arctic. I mean, yeah, your family, everybody's family goes through these. Well, maybe not that, but everybody's family goes through crises and events and adventures. And yeah, yeah, I was able to put a lot of it in the strip, but then of course a lot of it I did not put in the strip to protect my family.
Hmm.
And you make stuff up because it has to be entertaining, so it has to be, you know, you have to constantly fill it with material which comes out of your head or comes from relatives, neighbors, friends, wherever you can get gags and ideas. Thank you.
But you'd say that your own life is the biggest influence on what you create?
Well, that's all you have, right? I mean, you can write a novel based in fantasy, but you still have to do the research. I mean, I have a friend who's recently finished a novel on a gigantic chessboard in ancient Britain where you actually use real horses and real knights on the chessboard. Well, it's a wonderful image, but in order to write that novel, the amount of research she had to do is
Yeah.
incredible.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to research your life, it's there, but
Yeah.
you compartmentalize and decide what I can show and what I cannot show. What
Mm-hmm.
is what is fantasy? And you have to protect your family, you have to protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to provide an entertainment medium, you know, so you bring in neighbors and friends that don't exist in the strip, they can do anything.
Yeah.
When April came along, was great fun because she was not based on anybody. I had
Mm-hmm.
a daughter and a son, and I had to make sure that their privacy was protected. But April was fair game, so she was a lot of fun to work with, and she turned into be one of the most interesting characters because right now she's a veterinarian. She's all grown up and working in Calgary.
I was even going to ask which of those characters that you've, you know, honestly, like, experienced life with do you personally connect to the most, and why?
Well, Ellie, of course, because Ellie was me
Hmm.
and still is. And she was probably the most difficult person to work with because I was too close to the character.
Yeah.
Draw,
Hmm.
draw the character looking too good, you're in trouble. If you're drawing the character looking too crappy, you're in trouble. So you
Yeah.
have to look just kind of ordinary, which I did. And people would constantly say, change that horrible hairstyle, that awful hairstyle. But if you think about it, changing a hairstyle on a cartoon character changes the character so much.
Exactly.
Unrecognizable character. You'd have to work hard to, and even sitcoms, the characters start out with a certain look and they pretty well keep that look throughout the sitcom just because changing things like hair and, wearing glasses, for example. If you never wore glasses before, it's an adjustment for the viewers or the readers, people who are following you, to accept it, right? So I
Mhm.
had a character with the hair tied at the back, and now and then she had a ponytail, but not much change there. So she was not easy to work with. And then when she got old, I added glasses and a couple of little eye bags to
Mhm.
add all the lines that are really there, like the lines. Otherwise, she would look like something out of a Godzilla movie. I mean, she was
Yeah.
judicious in the lines that you put on the faces. So a couple of eye bags, they did it. Maybe a little double chin here.
So your work kind of aged with you right alongside you. How do you think time has changed your outlook on this industry and what you've been doing?
So the industry, newspapers no longer carry comic art the way they were. I mean, in the 30s, 40s, 50s, you went to the newspaper for all of your news, and the comics page was the page that encouraged young readers to come to the newspapers. The newspaper editors wanted new young readers all the time. So the comics page was designed to interest 9-year-old boys. Okay,
Okay.
so shoot 'em up and action and goofy and all that kind of stuff. Well, as it turns out, it interested adults
Hmm.
that they started to create really much more intensely adult stories. Mary Worth, and I think even Al Yoop and a lot of these other things were fairly adult humor. And so eventually the comics page became a major part of the paper. Like it was a huge section of the paper, especially on the weekend. But then they started shrinking the strips and then eliminating them, and now eliminating newspapers. They're all amalgamating. You might get one major paper in a market, but there used to be two or three major papers, and I got into the business while it was still a really good job to have, where there were lots of newspapers. I mean, I was in about 2,000 papers towards the end of my work there. I don't even think there's 2,000 papers around anymore. It's
Oh, probably not.
so much. And it's sad because there's so much wonderful work out there that people don't get to see on a regular basis. You have to go to targeted resources online, or you have to buy graphic novels, or you have to be plugged into the system. You can't just pick up your Saturday morning paper and catch up on all the comics. So I'm sorry that era is gone, because to me it was a time when I'd sit next to my grandfather, who I really didn't like,
Hmm.
comics, and so we would go through each one and determine which one was good and which one wasn't good. And I was always interested in his opinions because he was a very upper crust British guy with lots of opinions and quite a vocabulary. You know, if we only have one language, we must learn it well.
Yeah.
Be able to, read the thesaurus and know every word in there. And we had to know our vocabulary, which helped later on when I was doing poetry, which I do in the little children's books. They're all poetry. And if you don't have a fairly extensive vocabulary, you can't rhyme anything because you need
Yep.
that rhythm. And often you have to go for obscure words that normally is a conversation.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like we can pull a metaphor out of that. So, as a society, we have devalued newspaper and comics and some of these, factors that were really significant to society as society kept aging. I'm kind of seeing the same sort of issue with devaluing seniors as time goes on and, new people are stepping into certain scenes. So, what's your kind of take on aging and how our value sorts of, takes a downturn at some certain point?
As I was saying earlier, I used to devalue older people. I'd
Mm.
make jokes about my mother's older friends, or I'd make jokes about some old person crossing the street. And we called seniors' homes Menopause Manor or Wrinkle City. Wrinkle City, see the old farts going across the street, and chewing their gruel in the morning, and I used to make jokes about old people, but now I'm an old person. And what I've discovered is I haven't really changed. I'm
Mhm.
you mature and you're more careful and you're more thoughtful and you've had a lot more experience, so you're probably a kinder person. But I really have not changed, and
Mhm.
so I'm still capable of doing all the things that I did before, except I do them better.
Mhm.
Let's and it frustrates me to think that people will dismiss me as I'm crossing the street the way I dismissed other older people. Because now that I'm old, I know that I'm no different from anyone else. I just have the wrinkles and I need a little more time to get up and down the stairs and stuff like that. But hire me. I mean, hell, I'll work rings around anybody else you got there because I have the time, the incentive, the energy, the experience. You
Mhm.
know, hire older people. They're crazy. I mean, I
Yep.
have babies.
Mhm.
I'm not going to walk out on you. I
Yep.
want I want to be busy. I want to be useful. I want to be seen, right? And so and I'm just learning this because I'm old now. So when
Mhm.
it turns and you're no longer the young, active, healthy, attractive person going to the bars and dating and talking about, the latest music, that's a life that I've had to live through and learn from and go past. And now I'm at the other end of the spectrum and I realize, yeah, I'm still that person. I
Mhm.
just don't have stuff anymore. But the
Mhm.
value that I have in society is incredible, as
Mhm.
as as it is with all of my peers who
Mhm.
capable and dedicated and hardworking people. It's only when you have dementia or serious health problems, which is the one thing that knocks us off the perch, right? I mean, I wouldn't offer myself to work, 8 hours a day if I was, in a wheelchair or having serious health issues. But I'm healthy, I'm strong, I'm willing, and I'm working hard. I come to the studio every day at least by 9 o'clock, at 9:30. This morning I came in at 10. I was lazy. But I get up every morning, I get dressed, I plan what I'm going to do for the day. I come down to the studio. I've got loads of projects. If I'm not working on the painting, I've got several paintings on the go. I've got cartoon paintings. I'm doing Christmas cards for Christmas this year, original. I mean, I'm constantly doing stuff. I like to write. I play music. I have my harmonica right here,
Oh,
right?
that's fit. Yeah. Mhm.
Music down at the Eagles Bar. So I play harmonica, button accordion. You have to practice for that, right?
Mhm.
So I'm busy and I'm surprised by how busy and how youthful I am and my friends are at this age. But we're bypassed because we're wrinkly and we're slow. And so anyways, I'm thrilled that you're asking these questions. I'm thrilled to be talking about it because it's a surprise to me too. And I can't my friend Bunny Host, who does a comic called The Longhorns,
Mhm.
he was 92 yesterday. I called her up and said, how?
Oh, no way.
And she said, I can't believe how fast the time went by. She said, in a blink of an eye, I went and she was a dancer in New York, right? She went from being a dancer and an English teacher and a music, a piano player to now she's 92. And she said, it happened in a blink of an eye. And it's true. It,
Mhm.
you yourself, if you say to yourself, what was I like at 3 years old? You can remember what you were like at 3 years old. You can remember it clearly, what you wore, the way you talked, who your friends were, your favorite birthday toy, Christmas morning when you're 3 years old. Well, and it seems like it's gone by in a blink of an eye, right? Because
Yeah.
you're, I don't know how old you are now, but whatever you are now, close to 30 perhaps. But you say, man, I can remember that so clearly, and it went by like a blink of an eye.
Mm-hmm.
What said that to my 13-year-old granddaughter? Do you remember what it was like to be 3? Did it go by like a blink of an eye? And she said, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I remember what it was like to be 3. I remember it so clearly. And it's gone by like the blink of an eye. It's just shocking how quickly your life goes by. So to make the most of every day, that's not
Mm-hmm.
a crazy thing to suggest. Make the most of every day. Don't fight with the people you love. Make up with them. You know, leave this world with a clear conscience. Because there's lots going on, and you've got control right up to the very end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are so right about that. And my Grammy, so she will be 78 in January. So you guys are kind of right around the same age range. And she has always been so busy. And she always had 2 full-time jobs. And she, played a really big hand in raising me and my brothers. And she golfs every day, she hikes every day, she like meets with her friends every day. She just got back from Greece, and she doesn't even have anything notable to say about it. She said, go look at my friend's Facebook. I don't even want to go through that. I already lived that. But she also lives such an active life, and I'm like, you know what, she makes me want to, get up off my butt and go out and do something, because like if she doesn't have an excuse, why should I have an excuse? And hearing your perspective on this really makes me thankful for the cultures out there that do value, like in indigenous culture, the elders. Like that's very important. Or in many Asian countries, they always value and keep their grandparents around for as long as they can. So I think it's maybe become a norm in the Western world that we have forgotten about these people that have so much more life that they've lived and experience and wisdom that we as younger people can't relate to. We can't you know think of all that history and that all of that knowledge that people that have lived longer have. So I think that is where the biggest source of value in older individuals comes from.
Well, what you're saying really means a lot to me because we are a resource we're an overlooked resource. Most people my age who have accomplished something, whether it doesn't matter whether it was law or business or you're a seamstress or a performer or a cook, it doesn't matter what your career was. By the time you are at a retirement age, what you have amassed in the term, in the way of information and skill, you really want to pass it on to someone else. And if a young person is interested, you want to open doors for those young people. And I tell you, I've tried to open doors for people, and very few people pick up their suitcase and walk through and make use of it. They want you to take them and to help them and to do it for them.
Yeah.
If you have someone, and there's only been 2 people in my life that have taken the open door and gone on, and with each open door I will open another, and if I can't open a door for them, I will connect them to someone who can, right? Because I have years of experience and many contacts in animation and comic art and publishing and legal stuff when it comes to publishing. And ask me a question about your contract, my friend, because I'll help you through it, right? And we're overlooked, but I would love. People open doors for me. I wouldn't have this job now if I had not worked for older people who said, "You're good at this. Let me introduce you to so and so," or "Can you produce this?" or "Can you do that for me?" You do it for them. You do it on time. You do it well. They open another door. You
Yeah.
go. You do it. You're on time. You do the job well. They open another door. And it's doors that open that help you get forward. It's not just you. It's not just your talent or your enthusiasm. It's other people
Mm-hmm.
doors for you, but you have to honor their ability to open that door for you by going through and doing the work. By
Yeah.
time, by proving that you can do it. And even if you don't think you can do it, try the best you
Try
can.
anyway. Hmm.
When I was offered the job to do a comic strip, it was a 20-year contract. And
Yeah.
I'll never be able to
Oh
do
my God. Yeah.
I don't sign this contract. I'm a fool.
Hmm.
At least I should try.
Hmm.
When I signed the contract, I discovered I had editors who were willing to help me and other cartoonists who were there to rely on. And it was a wonderful family that I joined. You know, it was not, it's competitive, but mostly you're competitive against yourself. There might be a couple of other people you're competitive with. I mean, I know that Garfield and Snoopy were competitive and stuff like that. Competitive with High and Lois and Family Circus and Blondie. But you see, my agents could knock Blondie off a comics page, and I didn't fight with the originators, or High and Lois would knock For Better For Worse off a page, but I didn't fight with the originators because it was done by our syndicates, right? So
Yeah.
a bit of a tussle there for that. They call it real estate in the newspaper. But it was fun. It was enjoyable. It was a challenge, and now I'm willing to open doors for people,
Hmm.
and I know other people who can open more doors. So in the comic art industry, um, I'm happy to talk to young artists and give them a hand up, or a leg up, or a foot up, or whatever they're putting up. And the rest of the people that I know who are experienced in well.
I think that you bring up so many important points. I'm going to touch on this one first. So, untapped resource that, seniors and the older individual group have. And when did society turn to the position where let me just pull up my phone and Google how am I going to make a break in the whatever industry, rather than going to someone that's actually done it and has those connections and has that experience? When did we turn from these sorts of oral teachings and human to human connections just to relying on our, access to the internet? Right? Like, I think that is where most people will turn to first.
Had the most exciting, wonderful resource we have ever had. I mean, imagine, just today I wanted to find out more about you, and I just go online and I find out, right? I mean, it's exciting. And like anything else, there's good parts to it and bad parts to it. But the best part is the ability to connect,
Mm-hmm.
to be in touch, to communicate. And like right now,
Mm-hmm.
it's impossible 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
No, and it's wonderful. I embrace it. I just think it's too bad there's an addiction quality to it. I mean,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
also looking at car crashes and how to paint an olive tree in 2 seconds, and how I cleaned up this ugly dog I found in the corner, and I love that stuff, but it's time sucking, and that's the one thing we don't communicate often. We'll see people at a restaurant and they're all on their phones. So yeah, it's good and bad, but I'm enjoying the good part.
Yeah, we gotta take what's useful. And, obviously I'm an avid internet user. But you're reminding me to think about the people that, I could connect to beyond that. And like I used it to change a battery in my car just recently, rather than having to pay someone to do it. So like it's what the world is turning into now, but I feel like there's a way that we could mix, you know, buried knowledge with the current knowledge we have now.
Yeah. I don't know why, and I'm going to say it's younger people, why so many people don't respond to letters.
Mm-hmm.
I will send a letter to a company explaining something and I don't hear back. If
Yeah.
I'm able to phone somebody, I might be able to talk to a human.
Mm-hmm.
But so often communication is stopped in its tracks because people don't respond to you. And and then nowadays people just say, oh well, that's just the way it is. Oh, so and so never gets back to you. Well, if you don't get back to me, I find it insulting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get back to you, I will apologize. Because I think there's courtesy missing, there's communication ethics missing. And I think when it comes to people wanting to connect other people to good things, I'm not going to connect you if you don't get back to me because I think you got a few screws loose. Why would I work with you if you don't have the courtesy to get back to me? So answer your letters, folks. Answer the emails. It doesn't take much time. Do it while you're on the hand, right? You got your phone, do it.
Yeah.
Back to you. And that in the end screws them badly. I have an example. I was
Okay.
I was sitting in a bar one time, as cartoonists are often doing, and I was sitting next to a couple of guys who just had a contract and they were doing a comic strip and getting fan mail for the first time. And I said to them, I hope you're answering that mail. And they laughed at me and said, what? Why would we do that? And I would say, well, for every person you respond to, they show that letter to 10 other people. And if an editor in their area goes to drop your strip, and they're fans and you connected to them personally, they will call the features editor and say, if you drop, Baloney Bill for, the hedgehogs, I will stop buying the paper. And they will en masse get together and talk to the features editor. I've had that happen several times because I answered my mail.
Mm-hmm.
Connects you with your readers, which gives you more readers and gives you a solid bond with your readers. There's another example of not having the courtesy to answer your mail. And if it comes, sometimes mail comes in boxes if you're successful. Answer it all. Get help. Just sign the bottom, but answer it all. Everything is reasonable anyway. A
Yeah.
lot comes over the transom is pretty X-rated, but the reasonable stuff.
Yeah. No, I get that. And yeah, there definitely is an answering issue. I don't know what it is. If I were to spitball, I'd say I don't know, just the mass of different people you could get back to, and then it's like, oh, maybe I'll do it later, and you never do. I feel like it's in the same realm of procrastination almost.
Lazy. And
Yeah.
it's lack of courtesy, and you have to learn courtesy at all.
Mhm.
To and thank Auntie Mildred for her $10 Christmas gift, then
Yeah.
Auntie's not going to send you another $10 Christmas gift. So it might be a good idea to say thanks, Mildred.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know,
If
just courtesy. That's all it is.
Well, that's definitely something that we as generation should work on because I've even had some of these conversations. I'm not very close with my dad's mom, my grandma on that side, and I never really have been. And it was that was definitely a topic of conversation I had last time I seen her, and she's like, "Wow, I don't even remember the last time I seen you." I'm like, "Same goes." And her husband, technically my step grandfather, I guess, also didn't recognize me because how much time has gone by. There's been no communication, and it's just like, I definitely could do more. Maybe it's my jaded side that's keeping me from not, but that's definitely something that I feel like I relate to, and a lot of other young people probably do too.
Not all relatives are people you want to keep in touch with, that's for sure. But
True.
there's a lot of people you should stay in touch with. Good
Hmm.
friends. Keep your friends. Keep your friends from elementary school. Keep them and keep in touch. Send them a birthday card. Say happy birthday.
Hmm.
Haven't talked to you for a while. How are you doing?
Hmm.
That's get old because all of my friends are croaking. We're all falling off the perch. My ex used to say it was like the end of a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
The end is so far in the future. There's no possible way. It's just an endless highway. But then now I'm getting closer to the end of that conveyor belt. I know my friends are
We
falling off.
need more. We need more. Yeah.
Oh, there's so much I want to do before I fall off the end. And I got to say, I'm not afraid of falling off the end. I don't want to hurt or anything. And I sure don't want to be filled with pipes and tubes and fed gruel and washed and like I don't know, a gourd in a blanket. I just,
Yeah.
please save me from that. But I'm not afraid of croaking. I really am not. I'm looking forward to I think the adventure of what's next.
Yeah.
Questions that aren't answered for you until you get to the other side. And
Hmm.
then say, oh, okay. So that's what it's all
That makes sense now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
about, where I could understand every language.
Mm-hmm.
It was all telepathy.
Mm-hmm.
It was, it was the most exciting dream I've ever had. And I thought, if that's what happens, wow. Great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love that that's your, outlook on, what happens next. And I think life and, purpose and just being here is all too magical for us to just, become fertilizer. So I'm glad to hear other people are, you know, still hopeful of what's to come. My Grammy is definitely um, not one who thinks that there's much after, and I can't convince her otherwise. But hopefully in a while, in a long time, she'll be proven wrong.
That once you feel connected to the spirits you become,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's had no interest in the afterlife at all. She was raised in a Anglican household, married a Jewish man, and they had religion all over the place. They had every holiday you could imagine, right? And she didn't want to believe any of that. She just said, "Oh well, it's just history and tradition and all of that." But when she was in her 90s, she was starting to see people that had gone
Yeah.
past,
Mm-hmm.
have these unusual experiences of deja vu where she was with old friends or with her mother and that type of thing. And I was thinking, okay, the spirits are coming for you. They're on their way.
Mm-hmm.
And she became much less
Mm-hmm.
and actually kind of looking forward to it. She kept saying, "Again, I'm ready. I'm ready."
Mm-hmm.
And when you're ready, it means you're ready for the next adventure. I
Yeah.
mean, it's something I'm looking forward to, but not for a while.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, if you have, I don't even want to put that out there, but I hope to experience that and see all about what, adventures there are to come after our time in this life is done. So, always something to think about and great for creativity too.
So much for doing this. I really, I'm thrilled that you're doing this. It's good for you. It's good for us. It's good.
Mm-hmm. Yep. This is exactly what we need more of, like more people just connecting, talking, communicating, because while the internet has proven to be such a great form to connect people from all different places, it's that genuine connection and this sort of discourse that has been lacking ever, especially since after the isolation that was caused from the COVID-19 pandemic. But it's been a growing thing for a while now. So I'm glad that I'm able to be part of this conversation with you. Okay, so I've pulled up a clip of you doing some illustrations, and I want to use it as a sort of segue into the next segment. So I'm going to pull it up, and maybe you could give us some insight into what we're looking at.
So maybe what the books that I've finished, full color and on the shelf now, but this is part of the process. I just wanted to show also my young readers
Mm-hmm.
how it's done and um, how it's done. What I have is paper, pens, pencils. It's just a matter of down
Mm-hmm.
and you need to have skills artist to do this.
Yeah, for sure.
That's something you're born with, and that's something that you start working on much when you're
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5, and not which is why I think about thinking of Afghanistan, not being able to speak out loud, not being able to sing, not being able to
Mm-hmm.
talk
Mm-hmm.
about a lot of
Yeah, not being able to share some of the innate things that make us human, our brain, our thoughts, our, creative aspects.
See a piece of fabric walking down the street in silence. So, what an impoverished for not giving her the chance to see
And it's so sad to see. Yeah, 100%. How it's changed. Because I'm a political science major, right? So, um, looking into the history of, the country, things were not always that way. And one thing led to another, war, different people coming into power, and it's taken away an innate right of a mass group of individuals. It's horrible.
something all of us here in North America be aware of. Hopefully, anyway,
Yep.
very lucky.
That's all we can do, right? But it's important to talk about those sorts of things, because a lot of people are afraid of, oh, what are people going to say? What about what people aren't going to say? Because no one is saying anything. That's what's more important.
It's when you do say something that then you have to.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you are so right. And this is a very good point to bring up, because this is what we're trying to do, with this program. We need to talk about important issues that affect more people that people aren't thinking about. We're not taking other perspectives into consideration. We're not putting ourselves in one another's shoes and showing compassion. So even just bringing things like this up and relating it to aspects of creativity is so important. Okay. Segueing into the next segment, I've put together a little bit of an exercise on prompting. So I'm going to give you a couple line sentence, and with that brain of yours, I want you to take it in whatever way you do. Okay?
You want me to come up with the first thing that comes to mind? Or?
Yeah, or what you would turn it into in your creative realm, whether it's painting, illustration, anything like that. I'm happy to roll with the punches. Okay, so what would you say about laugh lines?
Laugh lines, they're good. You want to be with people with laugh lines. When I was 3, I got on a bus with my mom, and there was only a couple of seats available on the bus, and I sat next to the lady with laugh lines. I thought I could trust her.
Okay, and what was it that her laugh lines were proof of a life full of smiling that made you feel you could trust her?
This is a positive lady, and I'd like to sit here. I remember my mom asking me why I had chosen that spot, and I said, because the lady had laughed.
I love that. What about beyond words?
Beyond words, well, there are so many things that are beyond words. To be speechless. No, we're not very often speechless. Some things, often it's just visuals. I often see, especially little children, just uh, the way they react to everyday things that you take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have words to cover that.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly to do with emotional relationships and the kind things people do to each other. I know that there are pretty horrific things that we do to each other, but it's the kindness and the goodness in people that often leads me to speak. And I'm so grateful for that. I mean, what flawed animals we are. So the good myself as a human.
Mm-hmm. Not to interrupt you, Lynn, but some of the audience members are saying that when you move far away from the camera, they can't hear you as well. So, are we able to rectify that at all?
I'm close now. Is that better?
I mean, you've sounded amazing to me, but we'll hear the feedback in a second when the stream catches up. Um, what about through thick and thin?
Everybody's had thick and thin. I mean, I've had some amazing experiences in my life, and I'm grateful for them all. I'm grateful for the bad stuff that have left me lying on the floor screaming. I'm grateful for the good stuff that's left me speechless. I'm grateful for having kids because they send you through thick and thin if anything can. I mean, that's the challenge of a lifetime. I'm grateful for all of the ups and the downs that I've had. I'm grateful for the roller coaster. And I'm grateful for the people who have stuck with me through it all. And I have stuck with others, whether it was partners or friends or family. Um, there are so many reasons to stay together through thick and thin. We need each other. And after all of these years, I think that I'm a better person for the bad stuff that's happened because you judge yourself by the way you respond to serious and life. Um, I've learned a lot. I'm happy with the way things have turned out, and there'll probably be more to come.
Mm-hmm. 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 What a good symbol of community too. That we need our community around us, whether it's a small support group or a massive one. Is that we lean on each other, rely on each other, even when individualism is something that is so pushed in our at least in the Western society of today. Like at the end of the day, people need other people. And while you could push through, try to do everything yourself, you're going to do a disservice in the end because think of all the opportunities that you could have had if you involved others in the process. Oh, am I frozen? Let me.
Olaf, let me know.
Okay, perfect. Okay. What about illustrated wisdom?
Novel. Many people now are putting the most heartfelt stories, the most intimate, personal, difficult stories into illustrated form in graphic novels. And when you go into the bookstore now, there's just this massive assortment of the most important, pertinent material out there. I don't think people have ever the way they do now in graphic novels. And so I find it spiritually enlightening and exciting and something that I would likely do. If I was 20 years old again, rather than be a comic strip artist, I would have done a graphic novel and started my career there.
Mm-hmm. And what sorts of graphic novels make you feel that way? What examples?
I recently finished reading a story about a young woman who went through transition therapy and how she dealt with her family and her friends and everything from the pronouns to the surgery, and it was probably the most intimate story yet, and I, I am impressed and celebrate their success in having done so, because I think for them it's been very cleansing and life-saving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 100%. And that's one of the amazing things about, these sorts of creative mediums because it's going to impact different people in different ways. Words on a paper are not just words on a paper to another person. A painting is not just a painting to a significant person. So, I mean, look for deeper meaning always. What is the point in not? in not looking for something significant in something that is seemingly insignificant. Right? Okay. I'd love to, in our last, we're in our last 10 minutes of our interview today. I'd love to open the floor to anyone in the audience if you had any questions for Lynn. And I hope that the audio is sounding any better. I apologize that that is an issue that some of you are facing. So let's just keep our fingers crossed that it's doing at least a little better. Okay, while we wait for some questions from the audience, I'd like to ask you if you could invite one of your characters that you have, worked with to dinner, who would it be and why?
It's like Elizabeth. Of all of the characters, I think she is one right now in the most distress.
Mm-hmm.
She's been married to Anthony, who is a childhood sweetheart. Anthony is the salt of the earth and the kindest man around.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very exciting life. Worked up in the north, First Nations people. Had a boyfriend who was a helicopter pilot. She dated an RCMP officer. She was on the move and doing things way up north and kind of, and a very unusual life for a young teacher. And now she's married a high school sweetheart who's the dearest man, but her excitement is gone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's suffering. And
Yep.
the fact that I still know what these characters are up to now, that's not the best of the
Well, they weren't. Yes, they're only characters, but characters are not only characters. Let's think of all of the TV shows that make people learn about, self love, appreciation, what it means to, be cared for. Characters are significant, and I'm so happy to hear that you know exactly what Elizabeth is doing these days, and she sounds like a great woman to sit down and chat with.
right now. So I put a bunch of
What is the strangest place you've ever sketched in one of your comics?
comics that weren't really strange places that I sketched. It was realistic places that I sketched. There wasn't a lot of fantasy in the comic strip. I did. I mean, I had a lot of different ways of coming up with the illustrations. One of the things that I used to buy is a lot of toys. I had loads of toy cars, bicycles. Some of the best things that I bought were those little magnets that were things like shopping carts and ironing boards and microwave ovens. These little magnets and things, because when you're drawing people's homes, this is one of the things I find frustrating with young artists because they just want to draw, let's say, anime. They just want to draw the manga characters, but they forget that they live in houses, they drive bicycles, they eat lunch, they need stuff around them, and people don't learn to draw stuff. So if you buy a bicycle, you'll be able to turn it in any directions. A little beautifully cast little bicycle, turn it in all directions. You'll be able to see that bike with all kinds of lovely perspectives.
Mm-hmm. 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 What is a completely random object that you think deserves to have its own story told about it? Mm-hmm. Sorry, could you say that again? I that cut out for me. A cell phone? Okay, and why?
Your life is
Yep.
calling a curtain state or calling a friend or looking up a recipe. I mean, is, you could write a novel about a telephone.
Yep, you really could. What are some you know, plot line points that you would put in that story? Mhm.
Like now.
Mhm. Yep.
That thing, that
Mm-hmm.
oh,
Mm-hmm. I could already see it coming to life. And I think that would maybe this is some inspo for someone else, or even if you want to take that on at some point. Um, who is someone from your network that you think would have something important to say on this show?
someone fun.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I told you about my friend Bunny, who's building up
Yes, you did.
92, and she's as sharp as a tack. So I'll connect you to Bunny.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm so grateful that we could get in contact with someone that has lived and has kept up with the same person that they have been. So I think that Bunny would be an amazing asset to have on the show. Okay, I want to know what is a lasting piece of advice you have for the people out there. Feel free to direct specifically if you want to, or keep it general.
Honest. Do more than people expect of you. Charge a fair price.
Hmm.
Nice to work with. Learn to apologize.
Hmm.
And however successful you become, there's always someone out there better than you.
Hmm.
Always.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a humbling perspective that I think a lot of people need to remember sometimes because there's a lot of us out there in this world, is there not? Mm. Yep. Oh yeah, depending on who you ask, that's for sure. Okay, so depending on what device you have, Lynn, you are I'm assuming actually I'm not going to assume. Do you know what the video filters are on this application? Okay, would you be open to me teaching you so we could do a little end photo activity? And I like when our filters like it reflects something that we talked about in the conversation. Yeah, yeah. Would you be okay if I show you how to do that? Okay. Do you have access to the little square that has your face on it?
Just the one on the screen here.
Yeah. Do you have so if you do you have a mouse or are you on a tablet? Okay. So if you go move your cursor to where your face is, there should be a three dotted button. Do you see it? Yeah? Okay. Click it and then do choose video filter or choose virtual background. Either one will take you to the spot. Okay. Now you see all the little sorts of faces and all that other stuff that they've got?
List of, there's a whole bunch of icons on the left. General video, audio, share screen, all of that.
Okay. So do you see on the right side of the screen under your face where it says virtual backgrounds, video filter, avatar? Yeah? Okay. Go to the video filter part. Nothing happened? Okay, maybe you don't have the same update that I do, but I am going to pick something that is reflective of our conversation. Okay, so the alien. This reminds me of the robot fabric, and if I'm going to think a little bit deeper, is how, you know, alienating society can be for seniors. Um, sorry, what did
In the middle of your face, there's one giant eyeball. Is that what I?
Yep. Yep. That's the goal. And I've got
Do I shut my screen off now?
let's we'll pose for a picture and then we'll say thanks to our audience for coming, but someone will cut it up and post. Okay, perfect. So I'd love to thank everybody for coming and joining us for this episode. Thank you for everyone that was providing feedback. I apologize for those of you that experienced some, less than ideal audio. Hopefully, in our edited version, that's something we can, work out and bang out. But I hope everyone was able to take something important from the conversation we had today. I know I did. And it's giving me more perspective, changing my outlook a little bit. And I'm most thankful that I was able to have this conversation with you today, Lynn. I know we were able to yap for our first conversation that we had, but I feel like we went even deeper today. So I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy day and your busy life to, come and talk about some stuff with me.
Pleasure, and I look forward to seeing where you go with this. It's a wonderful project you're working on.
Thank you so much. That means the most to me and our team here at LC. And I look forward to connecting with you soon. And I hope that we could stay in loop for, all of the developments, see the painting when it's done, see how everyone's loving the children's books, and just to keep up to date with you and what's happening with you. All right. Well, I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their week and to have a good weekend ahead. And thanks, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.